You're listening to the Better for America podcast, presented by AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rebecca Weber, and this is your AMAC podcast, Better for America. I'm so happy today to have with me my brother and the guy who runs the show here at AMAC, Dave Weber. Dave, thank you so much for joining today.
You're welcome. Thanks
Very excited. Yeah, and we wanted to come to our members today to talk to you all about why we formed. Why did AMAC form? We want to share with you our story. And I thought it would be really interesting for you to hear about this story because we are a family that just born out of an idea. Dan Weber, our father, had an idea to form AMAC, which is the Association of Mature American Citizens. And he did that for a lot of different reasons. There were a lot of reasons that motivated Dan Weber to form AMAC. So I want to turn this over to Dave Weber, who's been with AMAC since the very, very beginning, since this was just an idea. Today we've got over 2 million AMAC members. So I want to thank each and every AMAC member listening for being a part of AMAC. Without you, we couldn't do the great work that we do in Washington each and every day. So thank you for being a part of AMAC. And if you haven't renewed your AMAC membership, go ahead and do that at amac.us. Let me turn to you, Dave. I want to talk a little bit about the very, very early days. We've been part of a family business prior to AMAC's, beginnings. And you and I have had the privilege, I call it a privilege to work with you, a blessing to work with family. Dad went to you and said, Dave, I have an idea. Can you share with our members what that sounded like?
Sure. It was a little crazy at first. He was, I guess, when you go back to the beginning, he was an AARP member, and he was frustrated because over time he felt that AARP wasn't representing him.
His views.
Yeah. He felt that somewhere along the line they kind of shifted a little bit. He couldn't really pinpoint when or where, but he just started to notice in reading their publications that they didn't quite represent him. And so he decided to look for an alternative and couldn't really find any. There was an organization he joined, and I think he did pay a membership fee, joined, and never heard from them again.
That was that old Art Linkletter, I think, had some sort of small organization. Well, he was trying to build an organization.
Right, I think he was their spokesperson.
Oh, okay, and, right.
And I understand that they also were sued and were put out of business. So
yeah.
That could be part of the reason why he didn't have any action after he joined. But he was a frustrated AARP member. He tried to find an alternative and couldn't. And being a huge believer in this is the United States of America, if there's a need, then I can have an opportunity to pursue it and build it. It doesn't guarantee success,
right?
But we're guaranteed the opportunity to do that. So
Isn't that what's great about America?
Sure.
That's what you and I always talk about. I mean, that's what I love about this country is that if you want to go start your landscaping business, you can do that. There's nobody that can tell you you can't. You might need certain resources, but and startup money to do that. But it's possible in America to really go ahead and start a business, which is great.
Sure. And interesting you say landscaping because I'm sure you remember when Dad was a 14-year-old, he and his best friend, Bill, decided that they were going to start their own landscaping business. And they started literally with borrowing their parents' rakes and shovels and a wagon that they wheeled to and from their jobs. And within a couple of years, now they're 16, 17 years old, and they were able to take the profits from the business and they bought a pickup truck. They bought lawnmowers, and then they started to service bigger properties. But that's Dad in a nutshell. He truly believed that in this country, you can make of your life whatever you want it. You can pursue whatever goals and dreams you desire, and that the government is not allowing you to do that. The government is supposed to not be the one telling you can't. It's our country is supposed to have these inalienable rights and freedoms.
Yes.
So anyway, back to AMAC. I remember back in 2006, my father Dan Weber calling me at the time we had 2 offices.
Yes, 2 small little mom and pop shops, I'd like to call them.
Yeah.
He was selling mostly life insurance and auto and home insurance.
And, small family owned and operated independent insurance agency like you see around every Main Street USA. But we had 2 offices. We ran out of space in our main office, so we opened up a sales office. So I was in the sales office. And just a side note, Rebecca and I also worked in that business for decades.
It was fun.
Fun, sure.
We don't look old enough to be working together for decades, do we?
Hopefully not. But I remember getting a phone call from my father. He was in our main office, and he said, "Hey, I've got an idea. Can you swing by on your lunch break? And I want to pitch it to you." And that's when he said, I'm looking to start an alternative to AARP. Now I'm thinking AARP is a multi-billion dollar nonprofit, which, I don't know how that works. But they're a huge company, and really they're the only organization in this space that is noteworthy and is representing people that are 50 and up.
Right.
So I kind of laughed a little bit to myself, but said, "Sure," And he said, "Would you like to get involved?" I said, "Sure, why not? It'll be fun, right?" And not thinking too much of it, but also understanding this is Dan Weber, and when he gets an idea and decides to pursue it, there's a chance that it's going to work.
Absolutely, there is, and that's the unique thing about our father. For those of you who don't know, probably most people don't know, our father left this earth to go to heaven a year ago, almost a year ago to the day. Not quite, a week ago marked his year not being with us. And so he left us with so many wonderful, wonderful lessons about life, lessons about pursuing your dreams, and believing in yourself. I mean, he just had this amazing quality about him. He was very positive. So I can almost picture the time when he went into you and said, "Hey, Dave, what do you think about this? Let's form an alternative to AARP," because people have to understand that we didn't come from money at all. No. We had nothing. We had very little. We grew up in middle America, and we never noticed that we didn't have money. But 1 car, 5 kids.
He always had a used car.
A used car,
he
always
kept it for 10 years.
That's
because
right.
He said after 10 years, that's when things start to go wrong, and time to get a new used car.
Right.
But yeah.
He reminded me a lot of Donald Trump in his work ethic and in the way in which he believed so strongly in himself that he could get things done. But he was very, very, very humble. Probably one of the most humble men I know.
So I would agree with that. He was extraordinarily humble. He was very diplomatic. He had no enemies. People didn't not like him. Even people that completely disagreed with him on politics, they couldn't not like him.
Right.
He was just a good man. So when he came up with this idea, I said, "Sure, we'll do it." And thinking, how do we even start? Where do you even start? When you think about it, we have no financial backers. We have no big money behind us. There's no corporate sponsorship. What happened was Dad took his 40 years worth of retirement savings that he built up, and we all built up in the family business, and put it all on the line because he had a dream and he had a definite goal, and he said, "What's the worst that can happen?"
Yeah.
So
he said, "I have myself to fall back on," which I thought was really, really interesting. I guess when you understand your God-given potential and the gifts, your talents, and each of us have different gifts and different talents. When you recognize what those gifts and talents are, you realize that you don't really need other people to build you up. You don't need other people to tell you that you're doing the right thing, because you believe enough in yourself. And I love that about him.
It's interesting you said that, because that was his attitude. If this fails, even if we lose everything, I still have me. So we'll find a way. And also, we've been very blessed with our family. We have such a good family, and not all families can can get along to the point where they can work together.
Right.
It's not easy. You and I know it's not easy because there's not only the professional business dynamic, but there's also the family. We're brother and sister, and brother and sisters, are brother and sisters. So it's a very interesting dynamic, but I think, we've been able to make it work through respect, and we all see the ultimate vision of what we're trying to build here. So
we share the same goal.
Yeah.
And also, I love this because we are so different in many, many ways, but the common thread is so strong that Dave and I share that it allows us to work towards the same goal, but also it allows me to do what I do best. It allows Dave to do what he does best. And in so many ways, you remind me of Dad because you are so thoughtful and probably one of the kindest people that I know on the earth. And kindness was a big, big part of the way my father wanted to live his life. He wasn't. He always felt that if somebody didn't agree with him, that was okay. That was how we get closer to truth. He enjoyed engaging in conversation with people because those conversations, he would learn more about himself in listening to other people, which, a lot of times we don't recognize that good listening skills allow us to be introspective and think of ways that we can improve ourselves and do better and better each day. So, those kinds of lessons in our youth and growing up, I think really built us to believe in ourselves in the same way that Dad believed in himself.
And to hold yourself accountable, and if you pursue something and fail, to not necessarily blame other people, the system held me down or, that kind of thing. It was, he was a firm believer in taking responsibility for your own actions, holding yourself accountable for your failures and your successes. And so with that in mind, as I was saying, where do you even start? If you think about it, where do you start to build an AMAC? It's a national company. We have to reach all these people to try and get them to join.
Great point.
It was very difficult early on because it was kind of a catch-22, and I know you'll remember this. So we were going to companies and saying, we'd like you to offer our members a benefit. We're building an organization. We'd like you to offer our members a benefit to give them a reason to join. And the companies would say, well, how many members do you have? And our answer was, we don't have any members yet, but we will. If you give our members a discount, we'll get them to join.
Right.
And then we'd go to people and say, hey, we're building an organization. Would you join? And they say, well, what benefits do you have? And we said, we don't have any benefits yet. But if you join, we'll get the company to give us. It was just a kind of a funny catch-22. We didn't have benefits for members. So you literally walked down Main Street, USA, literally, and walked into every business,
knocked
door to door.
on every door-to-door business, local businesses like pizza places and
local pizzeria, and said, "Hey, will you
dry cleaners and delis, all kinds of places." Yeah,
but
restaurants.
What that did, literally added. You had 50 or 100,
right,
and then 200 local businesses that were now
offering a discount.
Of course, you had to live in a 5-mile radius of our office.
Right.
But when you went to our very first website, which was terrible, and I built it, not a web developer, but when you're starting a company, you do whatever you need to do. But companies started to see, okay, they have a list of benefits. They weren't necessarily diving in and saying, oh, they're all in the same town. But then we ended up going to Florida.
Yes.
And you did the same thing there. And, it gave us a foothold into building our benefits
platform
package, which helped to attract and retain members. And but most importantly, AMAC wasn't designed for the benefits. It's not a for-profit company looking to sell product.
Correct. And that's good that you explain that, because it gets to really the real reason why Dan Weber wanted to form AMAC and why you and I were 100% behind his efforts.
Yeah, it was more than building a company. It was building an organization that represented Dan Weber's views. And he was 100% confident that there were people that in this country that felt the same way that he did, that couldn't find that alternative to AARP. And he said, if there's nothing out there, then I'll give it to the people. I'll build it. So
it's a great story.
It is. Yeah.
I love it. I mean, I remember saying, Dad, the AARP. Now understand that I knew little of the AARP because I was selling auto insurance, and I'd lose an auto insurance policy, a client who went to the AARP for an auto policy, because you could only go through AARP back in those days. You couldn't deal with a local person to buy an AARP policy. And I said, you're going to go up after them? Aren't they a giant? I mean, how the heck are you going to do that? But he started to poll people in across America, really. He'd send out 1,000 letters in different areas of the country. And he said, what is important to you? Are you an AARP member? If you are, what do you like about them? And what is important to you? And when people said, I love your mission, Dan Weber, but the benefits would be great too, that's when Dan said, yeah, we got to build some sort of benefits platform.
Yeah. Very early on, when we had very few benefits, the new members were saying, if you guys really seriously want to compete or even just be a viable organization, you have to match their benefits.
Right.
Because their benefits are tremendous. There's no getting around that. They have an incredible benefits platform.
But ours is better now. Ours is so good. Yeah. I mean, if you match us up against AARP in terms of member benefits, I think we've got better benefits, or our benefits are so competitive. So if you're saving money in any area with AARP, give us a call, because I think we can get you the same benefit. But the difference is in our mission. It's in our mission. Now, Dave, one thing that I loved what you did, this is in the early days, because we are not here to attack any group or organization. And as Dave said, that other senior organization isn't all that bad in terms of the benefits that they offer. But I remember you came to my desk and you said to me, this was in 2009. We had just gone national in 2009. We formed in 2007, but we were local. And I think in 2009, we might have had 5 or 10,000 members, something like that. Mm-hmm. And you came to my office when we were very upset when Obama was pushing forth Obamacare. We all understand that that was a failure, and it didn't reduce the costs of your health insurance. It didn't increase your level of health care. It really just put government in the way of their doctor-patient relationship.
It didn't address the cost of health care, which is the big issue. It's so expensive. And just look at the hospital bills. There's no wonder why health insurance costs so much. But what it did was it redistributed who's paying for it.
Right.
Didn't change the costs. It redistributed who's paying for it and took away. Remember, you can keep your health plan. You can keep your doctor.
You can keep it. Yeah.
In our health plan, I lost my health care plan twice back to back because companies were pulling out of New York State. And I lost my doctor because he wasn't in the new network. So, we know that was a line.
That was a line. That was a promise that was never made or kept.
I lost my doctor of probably, I think he might have been the first doctor that I ever had. And then I switched for a few years and went back to him and lost him because he actually eventually retired. This is a side note. I'm sorry.
No, please. This is great.
He retired because he decided that after all these years of being a doctor and having such an intimate relationship with his patients and helping patients, he found himself focusing the majority of his time on paperwork, on forms, on government
This is your doctor
This
that
is
you're
the
talking
doctor.
about. Okay.
That he said he in his very small practice felt that he could no longer help people. He was merely pushing paperwork.
Oof,
and he was old enough where he was getting ready to retire anyway, but he just said, I can't do this.
So many doctors pulled out and sold to bigger groups and recognized that, there's this whole layer of administrative work imposed on me because of Obamacare and the way in which I must bill. And now I can only get paid a fraction of the cost that it's really costing me. And in order to make money, I got to speed through every single patient that's in my office so that I can see enough patients in order to make the money that's going to keep my doors open.
And then ironically, the more patients you see, the more paperwork you have to do.
And the less quality care the patient gets.
Right. So.
And a doctor is a doctor. A doctor's not there to do billing. I mean, a doctor's there to diagnose and work on medical issues, not work in a back office doing paperwork. At least, I think most doctors would agree that they usually will hire someone to do that. Well, if you got to hire 4 or 5 people to do that and pay for their health insurance, that's off the charts. Sure. The whole thing just spiraled out of control. But one of the things I was getting to is that in 2009, when Dave was running the entire marketing campaign for our organization, which he really oversees the entire thing, he came to me and he said, Rebecca, I'm really concerned because mature Americans don't like Obamacare, but for some reason, that other organization is saying, the other senior organization is saying, our members are for Obamacare. And I think you uncovered some interesting information. Can you share that?
Yeah. So I didn't uncover it. It was Kimberly A. Strassel from the Wall Street Journal. She's an incredible
investigator. She sure is.
She also is an incredible, she has an incredible knack for focusing on very important issues in a timely manner. So she uncovered, I guess it was through the Freedom of Information Act. I'd have to check that, but there were pages and pages, I think like 70 something pages of documents, correspondence, emails between the Obama White House and top brass at AARP about, scripting speeches and feeding lines to tell members. And it just was crazy. So the story has been reported in the news that AARP members were calling in saying, we don't want this. And AARP was pushing for it. So kind of ignoring the will of their membership. It's been reported by others. So I'm not,
Sure. This is just information that you
can do your own
uncovered.
Research.
Yeah, do your own research. But we recognize that. So one thing we're going to promise you, AMAC, that is that when we tell you what we stand for, and that is we take our marching orders from our membership. We poll our members. Go to our website, amac.us, and look for the member poll. Check them out. You can take polls that we've posted weeks and months ago. You can look at the results of those polls. But the polls, oftentimes, they help us, you folks guide us and tell us what you want us to work on. Like, for example, we know that our AMAC members are very concerned about election integrity and also freedom of speech, Second Amendment rights, sanctity of life, law and order, freedom of religion. All of these things, our members have said those are very, very important to us. So that is what we focus on. It also was very important to Dan Weber. Like, we're unabashedly, right, conservative. We love our country. We love the fact that in America, you can pursue your dreams. There might not always be an equal outcome, our father would tell us, but we should all have equal opportunity. And we're going to fight for equal opportunity for all Americans.
Yeah, and every single American, man, woman, black, white, doesn't matter. Every American,
young or old,
doesn't matter to us. We think every single American should believe in the American dream because it is real. And Dan Weber is a testament to that.
He is.
AMAC is too. Even if you don't agree with AMAC's, mission or philosophy or our politics, you have to, you can't argue against the fact that it's been a success story. And it's because we have these freedoms in America to pursue these dreams and goals and ideals. It's been a wild ride. It hasn't been perfect. We've had ups and downs. We've done some really stupid things, with...
we're having to redesign a website or having to, find the best people to align ourselves with to help us get our job done. And boy, we've come so far. Thanks to our members, really. Thank you to our members.
The bigger we've gotten, the more members we've grown, the more it fuels us to do even more. And the more it enables us to do even more. Now when we're in all right, so going back to
a little closer. We'll make sure it's catching your voice.
So going back to the very early days, we went to, I think it was 2000, I want to say 7 or 8, we went to Value Voter Summit. And
yes, I remember that. That was fun.
Yeah.
This is a funny story. I have a funny story. You tell yours first.
So, it was an interesting and fun experience. It was relatively small. Maybe there was 2,500 people attending.
The Value Voters Summit is a conservative networking think tank group meeting, I guess you could call it. Did I say that right? It's like CPAC, for those of you who may have heard of CPAC, which is the Conservative Political Action Committee, which is happening later this month, actually, in Florida. Great state to have that at. But anyway, this is Value Voters Summit, which is an annual gathering of really thoughtful conservative minds. Yeah, so we attended in 08.
So we went there and, we were excited because this is really our first foray into advocacy. And all we really did was attend a 2 or 3 day gathering.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting because I think that was the very first year, if I'm not mistaken, was Rick Santorum was manning a booth opposite our exhibit booth. And he was selling, I think it was a box that you attached to your cable TV to block bad content for young kids, the rated R and X stuff. But anyway, in between speakers, so when there was a speaker in the auditorium, all of the people would go into the auditorium and all of the vendors would be just standing there. And we talked to Rick Santorum and told him we were starting AMAC, and he wished us well and had a good time. Fast forward about 5 years, we went to CPAC.
Yeah.
And I was walking with Dad. We were on our way to our exhibit, and CPAC is typically bigger than Values Voter, but so the halls were packed, and we're walking through a crowd, and right past us walks Rick Santorum, and I turned and was going to say, Dad, was that Rick Santorum? And as we're turning and looking back, Rick Santorum was turning and saying, hey, is that AMAC? Because he had met us a few years earlier.
He remembered us.
And he remembered us. And so that was kind of a nice moment.
It sure was. I mean,
it was exciting. I mean, back then I'd never really been to Washington and seen the people that you see on TV. So
right.
Not that I was starstruck, but it was a very unique feeling seeing people that you're watching on TV or on the news and then just see them walk past you. It was exciting that, we're truly part of our government.
Yeah, we're the people that can make things happen. Yeah. I mean, we have a voice, and we have a bigger voice now with over 2.3 million members. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're growing like crazy. I have a really funny story at CPAC. So Dan Weber was the kind of guy who got it done. He was the one of the smartest men I've met or have ever worked with. And that many other people say that. That's not just me being his daughter, but truly. So he'd say, well, you know what? We got to get people to know about AMAC. Now, keep in mind, this is in 08. We had just formed in 07. We had a few thousand members. We were 4 employees in total. But we had started publishing a magazine. So at the event, there's a big, huge auditorium or big room with thousands of chairs, a stage, and the speakers that would come out later. And so we had passes to get in. And so my dad says, I wonder if we can get these magazines. Well, we looked and looked. We couldn't find anybody to say whether or not we could put a magazine on every chair. So there was nobody there to say no. And so we thought, well, why not? This is a great magazine. It's a conservative magazine that speaks about all the issues that these people care about. That's why they're here. Mm-hmm. So we ran up and down those aisles and dumped thousands of magazines on those chairs as quickly as we could. Just as we had finished laying out the magazines, the crowds began to enter. But I'll never forget how I thought, whew, we got those magazines out. Now everybody can see who we are and know who we are and what we do. But it was those kinds of things, just trying to reach people was really, really hard in the early days. And it's still a challenge for us to get out there because, you look at a group like the NRA, they have, I think, 4 or 5 million members. AMAC, nearly 2.5 million members. To grow to double in size is very, very costly. And what we like to do is we like to use all of the AMAC membership to further to communicate, get to the truth, and further our efforts on Capitol Hill. So, for example, when we have important legislation to work on, like HR1 that we're really fighting back on, that's where we like to put all of our resources and efforts, not by very expensive television commercials. So we rely on our listeners to forward the word, tell people there's an alternative to that other group, to the other senior organization. And by the way, I keep saying the word senior organization. I won't tell you how old I am, but I'm an AMAC member, and I do not consider myself a senior, but I am in that age group of AMAC membership. You don't have to be 50 or older to join. We don't call ourselves a senior organization. We're a Mature Americans Association, the Association of Mature American Citizens.
It's a good point because people often ask, well, you're young. I mean, I'm
You're
almost
You're
ready to be that
young.
50. I'm getting very close.
Yeah.
But especially 10 or 12 years ago, people would say, I thought AMAC was a senior organization.
Right.
How could a young person care about Social Security? And, my answer was always, well, hopefully, God willing, I'll live to have to use Social Security. So the issues that affect seniors today will affect the young people of the future. So it's not about age. It's about the mission, about the issues, about the advocacy, about ensuring the future for children and grandchildren. There's no age restriction, as you said. Although we are geared towards a lot, not all, but a good number of our benefits are geared towards
The
age
50 and older
up,
group. Yeah.
when you get into the Medicare type stuff.
Social Security advisory services
Right.
are phenomenal.
Right.
Services not offered by AMAC, but by the AMAC Foundation, which is like tremendous what the foundation is doing.
It's amazing.
It really is.
But we also have plenty of other benefits that are not in any way related to age. We have travel discounts, car rental discounts, roadside assistance program, car and home insurance, a whole bunch of stuff. So, and that's, again, it goes back to we have to offer these benefits because the members want them in order to be a viable competitor to any other senior organization, senior in quotes. We've got to offer these benefits. But again, the benefits to us are ancillary compared to the main core of our mission, and that's to preserve the values. I was reading about George Mason the other day, and the drafting and writing of our Constitution. And George Mason didn't want to sign it. He didn't sign it because he needed it to have a Bill of Rights. That was so important to him. So immediately after the Constitution was written and signed, and then they started working on the Bill of Rights. So we're going to be working on a series of social posts that will kind of highlight all 10 of the First Amendments that make up our Bill of Rights, and just take the time to read them, because when you read them, they're very simple.
But it's a good reminder. People need to be reminded of these Bill of Rights that I look at as rights that we believe we're born with these rights, because these rights, and when you read them, you'll understand that. You have the right to protect your family. That's part of the Second Amendment right. I mean, you should have a right to protect yourself and defend yourself.
Yeah. And, it's funny because sometimes with the Second Amendment, well, they say, the left says, they're talking about a militia. So a militia can own a firearm, but not the individual. But when you look at the other Bill of Rights, the other amendments in the Bill of Rights, they're all about the individual rights.
Right.
So why would that one amendment not be about the individual? America is a nation of freedom for the individual.
Very true.
So just really interesting. So we're going to be putting that up on social. If you don't follow us, you should. We're on Facebook, and I know.
Yeah. We're on Facebook right now. We're on Instagram. We hope to stay on those platforms because we know many listeners still enjoy those platforms, but moving to Rumble or sharing also on Rumble in the coming weeks. And we had a Parler account, but we know Parler is no longer there. Mm-hmm. But Facebook for sure, Instagram, and our website. You can get a lot of this on our website too. And
we're still reaching so many people on those big tech platforms. So we don't want to not reach them anymore in spite. We're still reaching hundreds of thousands of millions of people on those platforms.
That's right.
So anyway, I can't imagine that they would censor me posting the First Amendment. Word for word, in quotations. I can't imagine them censoring that. And if they do,
then
just another reason for AMAC to grow. And that's a big thing. The stuff that's happening out there, it's crazy. Like when you actually sit back and turn the news on, it's just all bad stuff. It's stuff that I never imagined as a kid could ever happen, where you would be censored for talking about an election or even questioning the results. As an American citizen, you're no longer allowed to question the results, even if there's scientific information.
Yeah, it's not America. It's not American.
It's crazy. Then you've got these Antifa riots. It's funny because those riots are still going on, in Portland and places like that. And so obviously it's not about Trump. And they're still marching through the streets saying, anti-Biden stuff, and that these people are saying they can't be governed.
Right.
So, and how they hate capitalism. And what's ironic is they're saying how much they hate capitalism while they're filming it with their $1,000 iPhone.
Right.
So,
if you don't like capitalism, then say goodbye to half the things that you take for granted each and every day, and most of which, innovation in America is just amazing. Why would we want to squash that? Why would we want to tamper that down? I mean, if anything, we want to increase innovation. This is a time of tremendous technology. I think that people are going to look back at this time and say, holy smokes, look at how much technology has changed over the last 30 years. And they expect in the next 50 years for there to be, for things to increase by
it's crazy.
10 times, 20 times, even 50 times, I'm hearing.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff going on right now, and it's very easy to lose heart. And that's also another thing that I love about AMAC is that we're all in this together, and we kind of prop each other up when we see this bad stuff happening. I think that the left has pushed the pendulum so far to the left that there's only one thing that can happen, and it's got to swing back the other way. So, we've got to just weather this storm, and
we're going to be there in their corner, fighting for them.
Yeah, we'll be there. We're not going anywhere.
That's right.
So it's an inspiring place to be here at AMAC, and we're just really grateful that we are able to do this.
Yes.
We're also inspired that there are so many millions now of Americans that have joined us because they feel the same way, and that's inspiring.
It sure is.
We've got to remember we're all in this together, so don't be disheartened, and just keep your head up. And
I love that message. It is so true. We're fortunate to be surrounded with like-minded people, and we work in great teams, and we do prop each other up. That's absolutely true, Dave. And we are here for you. We're going to fight for you. We are not going to go away. We're going to make this thing happen. We're going to use Dan Weber brains when it comes to continuing to build this thing. We've grown considerably in the last year, thanks to all of you who are listening, for telling your friends and family about AMAC. It's so important. I just want to remind people before we wrap up, Dave.
Sure.
One of the things that our father really understood was that people who love this country, and generally conservatives, many of them do believe in God and believe that our freedoms are God-given, not granted to us by our government. In fact, the government is given its power by the people. But somehow things have turned around, Dave, haven't they? And people expect more and more that government will provide them. In other words, people say, government should pay for my health care. Government should pay for my education. And if they're promised those things, they like to believe those things. It's easy to believe those things if you're promised those things. I think politicians have successfully convinced people that if we give them our money, that we will get back more than what we put in. But we know that that's not true. And I call them thieves of our freedom, Dave. I call them thieves because they buy votes, promising us free money for housing, free money for education, free money for health care. But who's going to pay for it? And what winds up happening is they tax the rich, and then they go tax the middle class. And this is what ultimately they tax small business for free programs. Somebody has to pay for this stuff. And what really winds up happening is the tax is passed on to you and me in the form of greater costs for goods and services, because if a business has to pay greater sales tax, for example, or a greater tax for property tax or whatever tax you want to call it. And believe me, there are thousands of different types of taxes out there imposed on businesses and individuals. Dan would always call the
If you start a business, you wouldn't believe the tax burden on a business.
It's huge. And Dan would always call the sales tax the honest tax because he'd say you can see that tax. You know how many taxes we don't even see? Yeah. We don't see so many taxes.
And here in New York, it's crazy.
Don't move to New York, but I think you know that.
Move out.
Move out. Although I do love New York.
Sure.
But let's pray that we get a good governor and a good mayor. We had Giuliani. So maybe we could get somebody, there's hope. Maybe somebody like Giuliani comes back.
It's funny that you talk about the governor because even Governor Cuomo here in New York he's been sounding the alarm for a while now that they've raised taxes too much, because what's happening is all these, I don't even want to say top 1%, it's really the middle class is leaving the state. So they're raising taxes and their tax revenue is dropping because people are leaving because of the raised taxes. So even he has said, we got to slow down, but then he goes and raises taxes again. So who knows? That's
exactly right. Well, one of the things I want to say to you folks listening here is that AMAC is going to fight for lower taxes. We support small business. We support the free enterprise system. And we understand that when businesses are heavily regulated and heavily taxed, it doesn't help the American people. And it doesn't help someone who's listening right now who has a dream and a goal and wants to go out and build that business. If you can't do it because government is in the way, get government out of the way. Government is necessary for our defense. There are reasons why we need government for law and order, but we don't need government to get in the way of your dreams and your goals. That reminds me of something. I follow a guy who's a marketing guru. Like him or not, he says some good things. You might not always like his language. He's pretty rough around the edges. So I'm not necessarily recommending him, but I do love what he says. If you like good information, the truth when it comes to marketing or how to get a business off the ground, I would recommend people go to his site. His name is Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if he's right or left. I have no idea what his political leanings are. But one thing that he said, Gary V, Gary Vee, he said this. He said, if you're doing what you love to do and you don't feel like you're doing a good job, you're ready to quit, you're ready to give up and throw the towel in, don't. Because it's not that you're not good and it's not that it's not what you should be doing. It just means that you're inexperienced. We were inexperienced.
We had no idea what we were doing. Honestly.
We had no idea.
But we figured it out. There's a job that needs to be done. You figure out how to do it. You don't say, well, I don't know how to do it, so I'm not going to. No.
Right.
You just do the job.
You do the job.
Pop, our grandfather.
Oh, I love Pop. He's a great guy.
He taught us a lot about that too. And interestingly, 30 years ago, you're talking about technology.
Yeah.
30 years ago, I was in my early teens, and I would spend my summers upstate with my grandparents in the mountains in northern New York. We had no electricity. We had no running water. We actually had a pitcher pump that drew water from a lake, just like I think in Little House on the Prairie, they had a pitcher pump.
Yes, yes. I love that pitcher pump. You guys know what we're talking about, the kind that you up and down, the big, it was red, and the water came out right from the lake.
Yeah, right from the lake.
Right from the lake.
So here you have a 13, 14-year-old kid spending 3 months with no electricity, no running water, no TVs, no light switches. We had we rigged up propane globes.
Yes.
So you could light a...
I clearly remember.
So we had some lighting. And it was the happiest time of my life. And it was because... I
love those times too.
You were not distracted by all this stuff. And if we as kids wanted to do something, we went outside and built forts in the woods. And we didn't, spend 8 hours a day on our cell phones.
No TV, no electronics, like none of that. It was so
It was the best thing in the world. But so that was just a side note.
No, because it's so true. Here's the thing. What I think Dave should do, and what I'm going to encourage him to do, is to share directly with you folks. Dave, you are so brilliant. It's like the old saying, still waters run deep. Dave is so thoughtful, Dave, and he works on so many of our issues. So I'm hoping that Dave's going to be bringing to you his own podcast, or Dave and I are going to be joining up a lot more often because this is really great. We have issues we want to talk to you about, but today we really wanted you to understand the people behind AMAC and why we formed. And again, I want to say to you that AMAC stands for the traditional values that make America great. And those are really rooted in our faith, our family, which, if you can tell, we love family, and freedoms, our freedoms. That is so important. It's why our pop, it's why he fought in 2 world wars. It's why we love our country, why we stand for the flag and we kneel before God.
Yep.
Yeah.
I promise, too, if I come back, I'll have a haircut.
He'll get a haircut.
So I
like it.
I was in need of a haircut, and then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And they shut it. They shut all the barbershops down except for Mayor Lightfoot, who said because she's the public image of the city, she needed to get a haircut. And Nancy Pelosi is allowed to, but we weren't. So and then I got busy and
I think it looks pretty good. I mean, you're keeping it at a good length. As long as it doesn't get longer than mine, I think we're good.
No, it'll be going soon. But yeah, I appreciate being here. And,
thank you, Dave. It's great. I love working with him, my brother, and family's so important. See if you can't reach out to a family member today. Tell them that you love them. Make that phone call. I guess that's it. We'll make this a wrap for today, but Dave and I will be back with you folks again for sure. Thank you, all of you, so much for joining. By the way, we're going to be releasing an AMAC news app soon, so keep an eye in your inbox for when that is released. We're about 30 days out, but that's coming soon. Check out our website, amac.us, to get all the great news and stories. And please join or renew your AMAC membership, because for $16 a year, I can't even begin to tell you what you're doing for America. You're making a difference, and we promise we've got over 100 people that work behind the scenes outside these doors that are doing so much work. We've got another 20 people in Washington that are each and every day rolling up their sleeves and getting to work on the issues that you care about. Again, thank you so much for joining us today on AMAC's podcast, Better for America, and we look forward to having you back again with us next time. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Better for America podcast. To learn more about AMAC and all it has to offer, visit us at www.amac.us.